important, but we've kind of covered family and faith a bit in church. But I do want to talk a little bit about family because it was such a big part of Dad's life. Okay? Dad was always there for everybody that he loved, for his wife, his children, the outlaws, his grandchildren, great-grandchildren. He loved all of his family, his nieces, his nephews, everybody. And, you know, with Dad, his love was unconditional, and it was real. And it was real for everybody except for a little hamster named Dusty. Now, that's a story for another day. I'm not going to, Mom, don't worry, I'm not going to get into it, okay? I actually don't know if I have all the facts anyway, so I don't want to start making things up.
It's all right. It's a better story without
it is a great story.
Yeah.
And may Dusty rest in peace. But as it relates to family, Dad loved to be with family. And we all had the opportunity in 2013 to have this beautiful family reunion. And it was Mom and Dad's 60th. And just about every one of us had an anniversary of one kind or other.
Yeah.
There were probably about 15, 20, 30 birthdays in there. And a few other things, but it was 3 days of family fun and food. And
Yeah.
And just the highlight of it was for all of us to see Dad out there in the backyard late at night with the music playing, singing his Irish tunes.
Yeah.
Yes.
He was just in his glory. It was just a beautiful thing. And that's all I'm going to say about family. Now we're going to move on to faith, because faith was also a big part of his life. And for my mom and dad, you know, their opportunity to transfer over to St. Leo's was kind of a revitalization for both of them in terms of their faith. And they got to do a lot of different things. They were very active in the church. They had some wonderful trips to Rome with the parish and with Monsignor. And the morning masses that Monsignor mentioned was very important to both of them. And then they also had a great friendship with Monsignor, and that was also very special. So we thank Monsignor for that. And that was Dad and his faith. And now to the good part, the fun. Okay? This is where the last few days we've all kind of sat around and reminisced and had some great stories. I can only get to about a quarter of them because there's just too many of them, but Dad loved to laugh, and he had quite the sense of humor. And it was a little unusual sense of humor. And he was a bit out there, but Dad knew it and he embraced it. You know, even if his audience wasn't on the same page, it never stopped. And there's one story that I have to tell that goes, and he had an audience. It happened to be one of his grandsons, a little 5-year-old at the time, I believe. And so Dad had him, and I don't know what the joke was. None of us really know. But he told the joke to his grandson. His grandson just looked up to him, to his grandpa, and said, "Grandpa, you're not funny. My dad is funny." But that didn't discourage Dad. The next grandson or granddaughter around because he loved to have an audience. But Dad was really a kid at heart, you know, when we think about it. I think Mom actually had 11 children. And when we go to the stories, you'll understand why. There's a lot of good stories about Dad. And he really was the 11th child. He was the oldest, but not always the most mature. So the first memory we kind of all talked about and we had some good laughs about was Dad and Halloween. It was one of his favorite holidays. If it's a holiday, I don't know. But anyways, we have a couple of memories of Dad with Halloween. The first was him dressing up as Tiny Tim. And now, I know there's a lot of younger people here who don't understand who Tiny Tim is, so I'll give you a quick rundown. Back in the old hippie days, the flower children days, there was this guy named Tiny Tim. Long hair, wild dress, and he played a ukulele. And I never could figure why he was popular, because he really couldn't sing. He looked kind of weird, but you know, somehow he was this popular guy. And so Dad thought, well, I'm going to dress up as Tiny Tim. So he got this wig, found it, just went into his closet, was able to find the wild clothes. And he had a ukulele, because that's who he was. You know, as we were kids, there were just tons of instruments around the house. Castanets, bongos, maracas, ukulele. So his costume was easy. He got it together, and he would answer that door, and I think some of these kids thought Tiny Tim was really at our house. So he just had the smile on his face every time he answered the door. He was just another one of the kids. And then there was the time that he decided to use his dental skills and make some teeth as a costume. So he took the materials, he made these bloody gums with twisted brown teeth, and then he took his hair, messed it up, and actually the picture is in the picture board, so if you did get a chance to see it, wrapped the scarf around his head, and then kids would ring the door, he'd pop right up there, look at him, they'd say trick or treat, and he'd just lay that big smile on him. And I don't know how many stayed. I think we had a lot of extra candy there. Scared them away. But again, you know, he was a kid. He really was a kid. I mean, even in his 80s, he was still building soapbox derby cars with his grandsons. Any toy that was out there that needed to be fixed, it was fixed. I don't think we ever threw a toy away because he could figure it out. It was his challenge, and he loved it. So he just, like I said, was a kid. He also had a sense of adventure in him. And if you think about it, some parents taking 9, 10 kids out anywhere is an adventure. But when we think back about it, we, as these children, had these great memories of him with him and with Mom at DePrills. We'd go to this little swimming hole, and every Sunday we'd go there, and we'd have cookouts, and just had a wonderful family time together. You don't have to spend a lot of money to have a good time, and that clearly was an example of that. The other thing was we every year got our treat to go to Crystal Beach. And the first guy on the ride was Dad. He loved the Comet, he loved the Wild Mouse. And we all took our turns going on with him. I think we went once each and he went 10 times. But he loved it and he laughed. And then he would take us tobogganing in the winter. Mom and Dad dragging all of us out there. Can't use one toboggan, you needed two. You know, it's just the way it was, but I don't know how, I can't imagine, you know, I think about with my kids and the rest of my siblings, we all think about with our kids how hard it is to keep an eye on them, watch them, and their mom and dad were out all the time with all of us doing things. And the only story I got regarding that maybe was a little bit of a mishap was Dad at the Erie County Fair. This is a little, I'll just go into the story briefly, but so Mom and Dad have all of us children at the Erie County Fair, and it's kind of dark out, it's nighttime, and Dad, if you knew him, he likes to kind of wander and watch and look at things, and he kind of is a drifter a little bit, and next thing we know, Mom's got all of us, and Dad's nowhere in sight. It's pitch black. 2 hours later, we finally hook up with Dad. Mom's not too happy. And the only other time that Dad, I think, disappointed Mom deeply was there was an anniversary that came up, and Dad decided it would be a good idea to make chili. Chili sauce, excuse me. So, I don't know if you ever made chili sauce, but it's not a 1 hour project. It's kind of an all-day project, and that happened to be the celebration of the anniversary. So, if I decide to make chili out there, everyone, I'm only doing it because of my dad. Don't think it had to be on our anniversary. And as we talked about all the things that Dad did, he was really kind of a Renaissance man. You know, we kind of joked, he's kind of Dos Equis man before Dos Equis man ever got invented. He was the most interesting man in the world to us. And I want to go through some of these hobbies he had and the things he did. And when you think about the hobbies he had, he didn't just kind of pick something up, do it for a week or two, and then discard it. I mean, he would pick something up and he would do it for years. I mean, and he had a true passion to learn and a true passion to try things. The first thing we all kind of remembered was in the early days, he loved photography. Well, we kind of wonder where that came from. Well, it actually came from his brother, Uncle Jack. Uncle Jack got him into photography. So the next thing you know, Dad's got a dark room down in the basement. We got clotheslines running along, clips with pictures in there. Yeah. Started with the black and whites, moved up to color. We started doing the color pictures. Every year, we're all sitting in the basement with a blue background, doing our portraits. You know, it was like we were his little experiment. And, you know, it was just a great memory. He also liked oil painting, and I think he did a lot of this with Peg in the beginning. And when he did oil painting, it wasn't just, you know, let's just kind of go out, get a couple of things and do it. I mean, he had, you know, 18 tubes of all the colors of oil paint. He had the platform to put the paint on. He had many brushes. He had the easel. I mean, it was just, when he did it, he wanted it done right, you know, and that's just the way Dad was. He was probably one of the first people that got into fitness. And when he was in his 40s to late 40s, he all of a sudden started working out. He would go out in the morning, early morning, jog, he lifted weights. I mean, I remember seeing kids on the bus, they go, "Hey, I saw your dad this morning." It's like, no one did that back then, but he did, because that's who he was. He got into cross-country skiing. He went out and bought a couple pair of skis, bought the little boots that go with them and the poles, and next thing you know, we're all taking turns going out and cross-country skiing with Dad. He then, somewhat out of, I think, necessity, became an auto mechanic. Yeah. All right, so he many times spent time on the phone with Uncle Jack and going out to Uncle Jack's house and kind of became somewhat taught by Uncle Jack and self-taught as well. If there was a car and there was a manual, if there was a car that didn't have a manual, he wasn't buying it because he wanted the manual to go with the car. And he spent many, many hours repairing his cars, my cars, Jerry's cars, everybody's cars. I mean, we all had our cars in there and for the repairs. And even at times, we're going out at night and Dad's still working on the car. And say, "All right, Dad, stop working. Oh, in a few minutes. Come home, 1 in the morning, Dad's still working on the car." That's what he was. Then after the auto mechanic role went, he had to become the auto body repairman. Okay, and if you think about it, we kept our cars a long time. And if you keep your cars a long time, those Buffalo winters are a bit tough. So you got to be able to patch some rust. And then when you have 10 kids learning to drive, you got to patch the dings and the danks that are in the car. So he went out, he bought a compressor, he bought the sanders, he bought the painter, the spray painter. He had it all. But Joe had to add his own touch to it, too. So it wasn't just that he was going to patch it and paint it, he was going to pinstripe it. Okay? So if you remember back, we used to have this old little what was a green car that became a gray car that was a Renault, okay? Well, he had some design, I don't know where he got this thing, but he had this design with these black stripes that were going on this thing on the hood, on the side, on the back. It was, let me know, people knew when we were driving by because there was only one of them, right? And that was Dad. He left his mark on it. So then, just a few other things he did. Monsignor mentioned that he owned. And he did that. Dad was a volunteer. He was somebody who jumped in and helped with things. And Jerry shared one of the umping stories with us as we were sitting around the table. And what it was, Dad, as confident as he was and somewhat clairvoyant, he used to call the strikes before they actually crossed the plate. They got to the point where one of the coaches said to his kid, "Look, if you start hearing them, just swing." So Dad, that didn't stop Dad. He was still calling them early. Dad was Dad. He wasn't going to let anyone tell him what to do. Dad also was into gardening for a while, and then he got into sewing. Dad bought a sewing machine. It was like a kid at Christmas. Like he had a new toy, and he would take that sewing machine that he just loved to sew. He's going to fix the pants. If you had jeans that had holes in the knees, gone with the legs, he's putting a hem in, and now you got a pair of shorts. But he was creative too because he made a cover for our sail. We had a little sailboat, and he made a cover for the sail. And then we, back in the day before they had mulchers, and we didn't have a bag to catch the grass when you cut the grass. We had a thing that you pushed afterwards, and it had this big bag on the end of it. Well, after a few years, probably 10 or 11 years, the bag wears out. Well, instead of ordering a new bag, Dad makes a new bag. Okay, so it was the way he was. He was very skilled, and he loved the challenge. And the last sewing challenge I'll give you is this is probably Dad in his prime here. So Dad was visiting Nancy after Ryan was born. Okay, and Nancy wasn't quite fully prepared yet, and she didn't have her nursing bra. So instead of going out to the store, Dad made her one. Because that's what Dad does. Me, I'd be at the store. I don't know. Maybe I'm crazy, but Dad's got to make it. It's precious. I'm not making these stories up. These are real, all right? And we've all shared. For 3 days, we've just laughed because we just continue to share these stories. It's great. Then Dad cut hair. Okay, the boys, you're getting it tight. We're going to leave some in the front, but we're going to wipe the ski slope here, all right? It goes all the way down. And one time I asked Dad, why do you cut it like that, Dad? No one else has one. How are you doing? Oh, you push it over, it'll stay if it's on an angle. It never did, but he still cut it that way. Then, Dad also cut the girls' hair. Not for long. Mom put her foot down. One of Nancy's haircuts was a little too much. Dad stopped. So, he did listen sometimes, Mom. Not always, but sometimes. Dad also wasn't a master electrician.
Oh, no.
Not licensed, but he was a master electrician. I remember one time, we're in the basement, Danny and I, and we're helping him pulling the lines through. He's putting in a new circuit breaker, okay, a new box, a whole new box. He's just putting a new one in. And we're down there in the basement, and he's just, this is just the way he does it. You know, we're down there, he's sweating, working, we're pulling away. Never got an inspection, not licensed. House still standing, so I guess he knew what he was doing, but, you know, today, no way you'd get away with that.
Yeah.
He also was a great plumber. I think half of the plumbing in my house has been replaced by Dad, you know. I think he's gone and visited just about everybody. He's not plumbing, he's done something.
Yeah.
You know, that's who he was. And, you know, there's a story that Tommy told me the other day, and it's a great story. So Mom and Dad are traveling across country. They're taking a train and a bus to go all the way across from the East Coast to the West Coast. And they get out the West Coast, and they meet Tom and Lisa out there, okay? Great to see you. Thanks for coming. They get together, they stay in a hotel room. All of a sudden, Tommy sees Dad opens his suitcase. There's a toolbox in there. Not only is there a toolbox in there, Dad realizes the refrigerator's not working quite right. So most people would call the front desk, say, my refrigerator's not working, can you replace it? No, Dad fixed it. No charge. So that's Dad, right? I mean, that's who he was. That's the way he lived his life. So, you know, when we think about Dad, you know, we also think of some of the other things he did. And I'll try and be brief because I'm sure the food is ready and people are hungry. But he loved tennis. He just kind of picked it up on the side. All of a sudden, he had a bunch of tennis rackets, and all of us were going out playing tennis with him. He'd bring us all out, and we'd have games of tennis up at the high school courts. He got into wallpapering and stenciling. And actually, there was one point, I think, where the entire house was wallpapered except the attic, and the only reason was there were no walls up there. He got into bread making. All of a sudden, it was every week he would be making bread, new breads, interesting, exciting breads.
Yeah.
Did he get the 4 bread makers that Christmas?
I don't know, did he?
Maybe, yeah.
He had 4 bread makers, they were all going. Okay. And then he got into cooking, but he was cooking with a wok. And he just loved to cook with his wok. And so lots of new, interesting, exciting meals at the Quinlan house. Everyone was a victim. And then, after his retirement, he had a little roof incident that happened right after he retired. Couldn't wait for someone to come home to help him. He decided he was going to patch the roof. Almost fell on Mom on the way down. Broke his pelvis. Showed up a couple weeks later. Dad, you were supposed to wait. I couldn't wait. So I'm out there working on the roof. Dad's barely able to walk. He's still outside with the walker yelling the instructions outside how to do it. So, because that's what he liked to do.
Yep.
And when he retired, he did get to do a lot of traveling with Mom. They really had many, many years of traveling. And they got to travel to see all their kids, of course, throughout the country. They got to go on cruises. They went to Rome 2 times. They took a great trip with the Lindberghs over to Germany and Switzerland. So, you know, he got to see a lot of things, and he loved going to Europe. He went to Ireland. He got to take a trip with about 3/4 of the children. He got to go over, and he just loved it. He just, you know, if he could be out with family and friends, traveling and seeing things, he was just happy. That's the way he was. And the other thing that he liked his Irish music, as we spoke. He liked to sing the Irish songs and treat us to his song, and he liked his Irish whiskey. Sometimes the Irish whiskey came first and the Irish singing came later.
Yeah.
But it was always a treat for us to see him because you could just see how happy he was when he sang his songs. And lastly, he was really a fashion icon. When you think about it, I think that Dad invented the combination of the leisure suit with white shoes. It's like he was, you know, and thinking of all the things that he did and you know, how full his life was. You know, when you think about it, he just had so much, and he really got to be the kid. You know, Mom, you let him be the kid. You know, you were just great in that way. That he just got to be a kid for most of his life. It's just a great way for him. And you know, I sit there and when we look back and think about it, you know, and just think about what his life was like, you know, he was kind of always one step ahead of us, right? And we're all just trying to catch up.
Yeah.
So, with that, I just want to kind of close with some words of wisdom that Dad always said to us as kids. Okay? But this is something a lot of us, you know, at times we'd struggle, you know, when we would be doing our homework or working on projects, and Dad would always turn and say to us, "Don't worry, tomorrow is another day." So, we raise a glass and say, "Cheers, Dad." Until
Cheers.
tomorrow.